Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a very interesting show set up for you. Yeah, he just keeps hanging on. I don't know how Norvell continues to keep his job down there at FSU. It's been such a struggle the last couple of years. Really, a lot of people down there thought he was going to get fired after this last loss, but he keeps hanging on. Is it money? Is it the timing? Is it there's too many coaches out there looking for a job? Too many teams? I don't know. So I brought in an expert. When it comes to FSU, he's covered them as well as anybody out there, and he's going to explain what's going on with FSU. All right, folks, brought TJ in here. I definitely want to look, there's nobody on this planet that is more of an expert on Mike Norvell than TJ Pittenger. I mean, there's just not. He has covered Florida State and Mike Norvell, and I know, the frustrating part about Norvell is you would not have been in this spot had it not been for Nick Saban retiring and the whole Alabama thing that just put y'all in a tough spot because you really should be in a situation where you can, get into this coach. Well, you should have been able to get out into the coaching sweepstakes last year, and then you would have had a shot at either Lane Kiffin or you could have got somebody that you're comfortable with. And it's not worked out so well with Norvell. Now last game was the most unlucky thing I ever saw at the end. But that's a team you should have beat without too much trouble. So, and I know you know that. You've been talking about it a lot the last couple of days. So you're at 5-6, coming off 2-10, coming off 13-0, and 2-6 in the ACC. And I guess they were 0-8 or something last year in the ACC. Is it just the money at this point that's keeping him there? Is that all it is?
I mean, I think so, but I've also been told by people that, I trust that if they absolutely had to make a move, they could. And I read a really good article from Andy Staples today at On3, and he talked about this. Like, they're not saving that much money because they don't owe Mike any money up front. Mm-hmm. And so they're saving, if they fired him, right, they're saving $9 million a year every year until that contract is up. And so, yes, $9 million a year is a ton. You also have the first year or two, you're going to have to pay the assistants and stuff like that. But there's been chatter about the coordinators getting new jobs anyway. They're not saving it's not a $54 million check you got to write day one. Mm-hmm. It's $9 million a year, which is a ton of money. I don't mean to treat that like it's not a ton of money at all. But they're not even saving that much. If they come out next year, Jay, and go 3-9 or 4-8, and they decide to move on, what did they effectively save? They saved $9 million, up front. So what is that going to cost them in booster donations and season ticket sales and just regular ticket sales and ACC viewership? Now we're, the ACC deal where you get paid more if you get viewed more. Now they obviously have their own calculus of how much that is worth. I struggle to think that that's not somewhere at least close to $9 million. And then you think about opportunity loss. If a new coach could come in and get you more wins and make you more money, could you even be losing some money that you could potentially make above and beyond? So I don't know. I mean, I do think they want it to work out. It is a hefty price tag. I think just as much as the money, there are not boosters and donors at FSU that want to stroke a check like that unless they're confident that they can go get a big time coach. And I think with a crowded coaching market, which I've got mixed thoughts on this because next year's coaching cycle could be just as crazy with Michigan and USC and other programs, Texas if Sark leaves and a bunch of stuff. I think that they don't want to spend the money right now if they can't go get an elite coach. And maybe right now they can't go get an elite coach and they're kind of just hoping and praying that Norvell can figure it out.
That was what I was wondering because he seems like a nice guy that people would like. He doesn't strike me as an a-hole. It's not the Brian Kelly situation.
How dare you?
Now, that 50 some odd million would be mitigated if he got a job at a group of 5 or a small power 4. So it might only be 25 million because I would think, it says in the contract that he has to look for a job, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a duty to mitigate, which is you have to go look for another job. And, if he went and got a job at a group of 5 making $3.5 million a year, $4 million a year, then your $9 million that you owe him is cut by exactly that amount, And then if the if you get to the end of that, say he does well there, man, say he goes back to a Memphis, or say he goes back to somewhere like that and he wins 8 or 9 or 10 games multiple years in a row, which I do still think he's a good coach. And you're right about, I mean, he seems to be a fairly nice guy. I think he does work hard. He just kind of lost the rope. But yeah, the new contract would mitigate some of what Florida State owes him for sure.
I got you. Okay, that makes some sense to me. This is a very difficult time to go in unless you're willing to spend the huge money to go get a coach, because this feels like a crazy year to me because of the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. And he's, of course, made it 10 times worse anyway with just the way he's handled it. But you've got, I mean, Florida and LSU are 2 monster teams in the SEC. So and then, of course, you had Penn State. Yeah, Michigan might be available next year. You may be correct about that. But if USC is available, but that also means he's going somewhere else. So next year might be your time to strike if he doesn't get it turned around. This game coming up, playing Florida, you're 5-6. If he beats Florida, that's going to help a ton, because that's the rival game for you guys. That's bragging rights. And I think that would calm the fan base down a lot in the offseason. Plus, you get to go to a bowl game. That makes your donors happy because they can go and travel and, hobnob and do all that crap they like to do. If he loses, especially, to Florida right now, I don't know who to pick between the 2 teams.
Yeah, they both. So I was at the game the other night. I know you know that, but I was sitting right in front, like literally right in front of where that ball hit off that guy's head. Oh man, I've never been more like I'm not even surprised in my entire life. After that game, I thought there's no way we're beating Florida, because I had just watched them compete well against Ole Miss, and then Florida comes out and scores 11 points against you guys too. NC State and Tennessee do not have great defenses. And that's not a shot at Tennessee, but they just don't. And then both teams go out and put 11 points up against their respective opponents last week. I don't know, man. Whoever has the ball last will probably lose that game is probably how it'll go. I do think so. I've been super negative about this. And one of the problems that I've had with it is that I think Florida State knew after losing to Stanford that they were going to keep Mike Norvell this year. And they came out and they gave this statement of, we're going to evaluate at the end of the year. We're going to see how things are. And then Florida State didn't get any better over the last 4 weeks. They've gone 2-2. They've lost 2 games that they really shouldn't have. They lost both of them by double digits. They were largely non-competitive in them. And then you decide to bring them back. I think if you'd have just done that, now there would have been still anger. But if you'd just done that after Stanford and not left this cloud of uncertainty or the fan base thinking they had a chance to see a new coach next year, I think people would be in a little bit different spot right now. A lot of that anger would have subsided because you just said, throw your hands up. It is what it is for this year and we'll move on. But by kind of leading the fan base on to thinking that there was a chance that you were going to get rid of them. You had FSU fans, Jay, they didn't know if they wanted to cheer for their team or not. They were saying like, I'd like to win because we want to win games, but if we lose, we get a new coach. So maybe it's better just to lose a couple of these games and get out of here. People are certainly upset right now. But I do think that what this has done is people will they won't have split emotions on what they want for the Florida game. Like they'll want to go in and kick their butt. They'll say, hey, of course, we still don't think he's the guy, but ultimately, like, we're stuck with him for at least another year. Let's go out and beat Florida. Let's be more into it. Let's get behind the players and try and go. The effort has been good. The team doesn't quit, which is great because last year they did. They're just not very good, and they find ways to lose games. But I do think it could have been handled differently by the admin, but I think people will be behind the team, and they'll be excited to try and get to a bowl. And, if you can hand your rival a 3-9 season, I think people are pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's like I said, you get to go to a bowl game if you win that game. So that could take a ton of, y'all needed to win that game. And I think you would have if not for those 2 crazy fumbles in a row. You probably pull that thing out. And you're sitting here at 6-5, and it wouldn't be. There's a lot on this game. There just flat out is for Norvell. This offseason could be so much better on him if he wins that game. It was just several months of not taking crap. If I was Florida State, I would have reached out to T.J. Pittenger. That's who I'd have reached out to. It's like, man, I don't need a YouTuber upset with us, especially one that's as tied to you, FSU, as you are. And I would have also the war chant guys and all. The YouTubers They need to spend some time with you guys. They really should, especially when you're struggling. There's nothing. And then one thing you brought up, there is nothing worse. And I have so been there when you don't know whether to root for your team because you think maybe long term you're better off if you lose a game or two. I hate that. It's the biggest waste of a beautiful Saturday where that you only get 12 or 13 a year. Yeah. And you have to sit here and root against your, I mean, it's just like everything wrong with football you're having to do. I mean, rooting against your team is the worst thing ever. So I think it was, at least they went ahead and solved that for you guys. Yeah. That you can go ahead and root for your team and not, God, I hope we lose to Florida and then we're rid of him.
I mean, if you would have offered a lot of FSU fans, this sounds crazy. And I never got to a point where I wanted to lose to Florida. Like NC State, I'll tell you, I didn't really care. I mean, I went and had a good time. I tailgated. I saw a bunch of people. I got to do a tour of the facility. It was great. I didn't really care if we won or lost. And apathy is just as bad, right, as actively cheering. But I never got to the point where I wanted to lose to Florida. But I'm telling you, there's at least some portion of the fan base that if you'd have told them, hey, you lose this game to the Gators and we fire them, they just said, drop it. Who cares? You know, just get it over with. And that's a bad place to be, man. You're right. You only get 12 of these a year, 13 maybe. And you don't want to be actively wanting your team to lose or mad when they score touchdowns or whatever. So I do think that that's better for the fan base. It's probably healthier. But we'll see if the changes they make, they're talking about retooling the front office and, you know, all these things. Maybe they can get them to renegotiate a little bit, restructure the contract. But I mean, I wouldn't if I was him, you know, I mean, I want him to as a fan, but I wouldn't if you got that money sitting in the bank basically already. But you know, we'll see, you know, it's going to be a long off season and we'll kind of see how they turn it around or not.
All right, folks, wanted you to hear from TJ, our expert on Florida State, ACC, all those things, and the coaching carousel that's going on around here. He covers it all the time. So do I. So it was very interesting to hear what he had to say about it. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all those big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, boom, and boom, hit that little button right there. Also subscribe to TJ, College Football Addiction, or you can subscribe to Double Fries No Slaw. And right over here is the most recent video, YouTube. Thanks, you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk J.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.